looking at their best, looking the way a lot of people thought they could throughout the season. And I know there is going to be the narrative of, well, are they peaking at the right time? You cannot be peaking if you were just at your lowest moment. The Cowboys 3 weeks prior to their great game against the Rams, it's not like they were on the cusp of putting it all together. They had a great defensive game and then a great offensive game. And then, no, they played terribly against Buffalo and then followed that up by playing even worse against the Bears. So, no, I'm not buying the Cowboys as road favorites over a team with a pulse, and the Eagles at the very least have that. And I'm not buying the Cowboys as all of a sudden some now dark horse contender if they get into the tournament, even though, Brian, Philly has had considerable struggles this year along with the Dallas Cowboys.
I'm actually buying the Cowboys as road favorites, and here's the reason. When Zeke plays, which he will this week, the Cowboys are 5-0 against the Eagles. Yep. Zeke has gone off against the Philadelphia Eagles, and the Eagles' defense has not looked very good as of late. Here's the thing, though. When they played each other week 5 or 6, whenever it was, the Philadelphia Eagles had 4 turnovers. The Dallas Cowboys converted 3 of those turnovers into touchdowns. Those are big stats. And so if the Eagles just say to me, we can go out there and not turn the football over, we're in the game. That means that Carson Wentz, who's come from behind these last 2 weeks, has an opportunity to helpfully win these games. I still think, even as a underdog, the Eagles have an opportunity to win this football game. But the big 3 for the Dallas Cowboys, that's the most important part. How can you slow down the big 3, Cooper, Dak, as well as Zeke?
I got a little Christmas budget set aside for my daughters. I'm putting it on this game, on the Eagles, as the home dog there. So my daughters will have the best Christmas they've had in a long time.
Or
none or the other. I think everyone, I think you hit a nail on the head. I think people are buying into, hey, the Cowboys have figured out. I think they might have, but I need to see a bigger body of work than one game where they kind of capture all this magic. And it was great. It was awesome. But I need to see this. Those 3 games, that 3-game skid, I need to see. By the way, 2 of which were on the road in nasty conditions where it looked like, oh, this is a team from Dallas where it's typically warmer, or they can play in a nice controlled environment, as opposed to them having to go on the road. And I get where Zeke is playing, and they're 5-0 with Ezekiel Elliott. But how do we know which Jason Garrett is going to be calling plays? Is he going to feed him the rock enough times, or is he going to get away from it? Are they going to try to get cute at different times? I haven't seen enough consistency from this Dallas Cowboys to have enough confidence to say, you know what? They can lay 2.5 points, go on the road, and do it in Philly with a playoff type of atmosphere. I can't buy into that just yet.
Nick, what's on the line for this game? The Cowboys can clinch with a win, right?
Cowboys clinch the division if they win this football game. The Eagles, if they win this game, they don't clinch, but they're in obviously dominating position if they win the game. So, I mean, the winner of this game, if the Cowboys win it, 100% they win the division. If the Eagles win it, I'd say it's close to 90% they win the division.
We talk so much on this show about trust. Who do you trust more? And it's hard to trust either of these teams because of the inconsistent season both teams have had all season. But who do you trust more coming in? The team that showed you they can do it last week, or the team that...
I don't trust either of these teams. Philly's at home. Yeah. Philly's, and I understand home field in the NFL this year hasn't meant as much as it has in years past, particularly on the gambling side of things. I get that part of it. But I also think that we say Dallas finally put it all together. Okay. In the game they put it all together, they botched the coin toss and the opening kickoff. So, like, they did put it all together eventually after they screwed up the 2 easiest parts of the game.
Out of bounds.
I mean, you botched the coin toss. The New York and Al Riveron parachute in to save you, even though Dak screwed that up. That was not the official's fault. And then your new kicker kicks it out of bounds. There has not been at any level of consistency from Dallas this year, except for the fact that in the first 3 weeks of the year against horrible teams, they looked great. And I do wonder if how great the passing attack looked those first few weeks, Brian, tricked either Kellen Moore or the team as a whole into thinking they were something that they weren't, which is not a run-oriented, Ezekiel Elliott-centric team. Instead, Zeke being one of Dak's weapons, which is the way they treated the next 2 months of football, which I think led to a lot of their mediocrity.
Well, that's a concern I have for the Philadelphia Eagles. They may have been confused about whether they were going to be a passing team or a running team, but last week they understood exactly who they were going to be. They had Zeke going, as well as Tony Pollard. Yep. Both of those guys had over 100 rushing yards. And the other concern is the Philadelphia Eagles defense. They got got 37 points put up on them by the Miami Dolphins, 17 points by the Giants, and 27 points by a rookie quarterback in Dwayne Haskins, who everybody has taken advantage of. And so now I'm saying, here comes Amari Cooper, here comes Dak, here comes Zeke, here comes Tony Pollard. They're going to try to run the ball down their throat. And this is what they're saying, if you're Kellen Moore, we're going to run the ball until they stop it. When they stop it, now we have the ability to pass over the top with Dak finding Amari Cooper, who the DBs for the Philadelphia Eagles have not been able to stop receivers. They haven't been able to tackle very well. Michael Gallup going over top. Those are big-time things for the Eagles. And defensively, they have not been very good.
I think we're given, obviously, I think there's going to be an overreaction to what the Cowboys done. And I think what the Eagles have done, and I know they're against bad teams, but we're talking about career-defining moments for Carson Wentz, coming back from 17-3, and I know it's the Giants. I know it's not very impressive. A career, you know, a game-winning drive against the Redskins, and I know it's the Redskins, but those types of moments can build up confidence in teammates, in him, in his own, in himself, that can resonate and that they can carry over some momentum too into this game, where maybe they start playing better from the time the kickoff as opposed to waking up at halftime.
Are we confident Kellen Moore has now decided he's going to change the game plan to run the ball, even though the Eagles are terrible against the run? Are we confident Kellen Moore is going to go against what he did the whole first half of the season? Well,
I think the game plan against the Eagles has been consistent. Run the football. When you have Zeke, they've been 5-0. They've run the football every single time they played the Eagles, including earlier this season. I don't see that changing. You might change it against different teams, but against the Eagles, they run the football.
Well, and Zeke's averaging around 165 yards from scrimmage in his 5 career games against Philly. As you mentioned, they're undefeated in those games. I'm not trying to make the case that Dallas can't win this game. I'm trying to make the case they are the same team today they were last Tuesday. And last Tuesday, they were a flawed, underachieving team because they all of a sudden put it all together for a week against a different flawed, underachieving team in the loss. The Rams this past week, are where the Cowboys are right now. A team that had been underachieving. For the Rams, it was 2 games. For Dallas, it was 1. Played 2 really good games. It's like, oh, are the Rams back? Could the Rams be dangerous? No, actually, they're not even going to make the postseason, and next year they're in real trouble. Dallas, after everyone being down on them, they do it for 1 week. It's like, oh, Cowboys, nobody wants to face them in the first round of the playoffs. Everybody wants to face them in the first round of the playoffs.
And to your point, they interviewed Jared Goff before the game on Sunday, and he said, yeah,